Did Donald Trump just hand China an opening in the Pacific? Trump has ordered a major scale-back of US-South Korea military exercises, while saying his relationship with North Korean leader Kim Jong Un is improving. But this isn't just a Korea story. It could affect three of America's most important Pacific partners: South Korea, Japan, and Australia. And the biggest question is whether Trump's push for allies to do more for themselves could ultimately create more room for China.
No, I'm making it much safer. You see, I'm actually making it much safer. Kim Jong Un has always treated me with great respect, and we met on numerous occasions, actually, two primary occasions, spoken and spent time. I understand him, he understands me. You're doing war games. I get along with him. You know, he didn't like Biden, he didn't like Obama, he didn't like anybody. But I get along with him very well. Now, what I'm doing is making things safer. Just the opposite. I just wanted to thank you.
Trump says the reason for the move is simple. South Korea refused to help the United States in its war against Iran. Washington maintains tens of thousands of troops on the Korean peninsula, and Trump argues that America's allies cannot expect protection without also sharing America's burdens. That turns the US-South Korea alliance into a very different kind of calculation, one based not only on threats from North Korea, but also on what Seoul is willing to do for Washington.
When I called recently the president of South Korea, who I like, I think he's very nice actually, but I called him, I said, would you like to give us a little hand? We don't need help with Iran, but if you'd like, give us a hand with Iran. He said, no thanks. And I said, wait a minute, we have 39,000 soldiers over there guarding you from Kim Jong Un, your next door neighbor, and you're not going to help us on a very easy military operation in Iran? That's strange. No, we'd rather not get involved. I say, well, why are we involved in helping you?
Seoul now has to balance two realities. It still needs the US alliance, but it may also need to prepare for a greater share of its own defense. President Lee Jae-myung is already stressing that stronger South Korean military capabilities and the US alliance must go together. The message is clear. If Washington becomes more conditional, Seoul wants to become less dependent.
A robust South Korea-US alliance and the strengthening of our own independent defense capabilities are mutually necessary and sufficient conditions for one another. In other words, a solid alliance strengthens the foundation of our security, while building up our own strength in turn increases our value and necessity as an ally.
But South Korea isn't the only ally watching. Japan sees the exact same regional threats and is calling for more cooperation, not less. Tokyo points to growing missile capabilities, military buildups, and closer cooperation between China and Russia and between Russia and North Korea. Japan's defense minister says the security environment is now the worst since World War II, making trilateral cooperation with Washington and Seoul indispensable.
As Japan faces its most severe and complex security environment since the end of World War II, cooperation among Japan, the United States, and South Korea is indispensable for regional peace and stability. To date, Japan, the United States, and South Korea have steadily strengthened their cooperation under the Memorandum of Cooperation on the Trilateral Security Cooperation Framework, signed by the three countries' defense ministers in July 2024. This has included the real-time sharing of North Korean missile warning data and the implementation of Freedom Edge, a trilateral, multi-domain military exercise.
And then there is Australia. Canberra is also strengthening its regional defense network, increasing information sharing, and maintaining a high tempo of military exercises with Japan. Australia says South Korea remains an important strategic partner, while its own alliance with Washington remains central to Indo-Pacific stability. So Trump's pressure on Seoul may not dismantle America's regional network. It could instead push America's allies to build stronger links with each other.
Well, firstly, I mean, obviously what the United States does is a matter for it. But let me be clear about a couple of things. Australia is very concerned about North Korea's nuclear program as well as its missile program. And we have consistently made that point. Indeed, when I was in Tokyo last year, I think there was a North Korean missile test which had just occurred whilst I was there. So, I mean, we are seeing that activity happen frequently, and we remain very concerned about it. And in respect of South Korea, we see South Korea as a critically important country for, in terms of Australia's bilateral relationship, actually in terms of the way in which we operate together. We have conducted trilateral meetings between Australia, Japan and South Korea previously, and we look forward to further meetings between Australia and South Korea later this year at a defence and a foreign affairs level.
And that is where China enters the picture. Beijing doesn't need America to leave the Pacific to benefit. If Washington's allies become less certain about the reliability of the US security guarantee, China gets more room to maneuver, diplomatically, economically, and strategically. Beijing is already warning against US cooperation that targets third parties, while maintaining engagement with countries across the region. And there is another important signal. Australia is making clear that despite all the uncertainty, its alliance with America remains fundamental.
Our alliance with the United States is fundamentally important in terms of providing a contribution to the peace and stability of the Indo-Pacific. And I'm sure that is how Japan sees its alliance with the United States as well. We are deeply embedded in the Indo-Pacific Command of the United States with representation at a deputy commander level in the US Army in the Pacific, the US Navy in the Pacific, the US Air Force in the Pacific. So our alliance with the United States is profoundly important in terms of providing stability in the Indo-Pacific.
So, did Trump just open the Pacific for China? Not literally. America still has a massive military presence and powerful alliances across the Indo-Pacific. But Trump has introduced something potentially more consequential: uncertainty. South Korea is talking about greater self-reliance. Japan is doubling down on trilateral security cooperation. Australia is deepening defense ties with its regional partners, and China is watching. Trump says his approach will make Asia safer, but Japan says the region faces its most severe and complex security environment since World War II. So the real question isn't whether America has left the Pacific. It's whether Trump's new, more transactional approach is making America's allies stronger or giving China the strategic opening it has been waiting for.